All right, welcome back. We are live on Equal Time Soccer. I am Mark Privratsky, and I'm here excitedly for an Aurora pre-season show. We have Dani Foxhoven Young, my co-host and new superstar for Aurora. Not on the field as I anticipated last year. Dani, how are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm so excited the season is here. It's about that time. The summer's getting here. The weather's getting nice. The players are here. We're all very excited.
Yeah, so we'll dive in. Obviously, there's more soccer than ever this summer. To give you a little sense of what to expect, we'll be on the ground as per usual at games, at WPSL games, USLW League games, maybe some UPSL games now. The schedule is crowded. For Minnesota Aurora, with such fanfare last year, we'll continue to pay them a lot of attention, try to provide pregame shows and interview players as we can. So Dani, we're also here at the beautiful Blackheart. My life stays insular, and I work here at the Blackheart and is owned by one of the Aurora co-founders, Wes Burdine. So we're going to try and level up a little bit, do some in-person shows.
Yes, I love it here. This is the best place in St. Paul, so glad to be here for sure.
This is a queer soccer bar, so we're doing our best to bring people in. There will surely be Minnesota Aurora fans coming here after games, as there's some buses going to pregame. But let's dig in. Dani, there's some exciting news. Dani got the call up. She got promoted because she's going to do color full time for Minnesota Aurora this year. We're excited. Dani, talk about getting that gig.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be totally new to me. So I guess, I have some experience doing color for the University of Portland before. I've done it for some other men's USL teams, actually. But this will be, my first with Minnesota Aurora. So I'm very honored. I'm really excited. I'm trying to do as much studying as I can.
Yeah. Have you already been out watching players and getting engaged with it?
I have. Yeah. I've been talking to Nicole a lot. I've been trying to keep up with even the other teams outside of, in the Heartland division, just to make myself familiar with everybody. But yeah, I'm getting really excited.
Yeah. When we talk about looking to compare from last year, obviously it was a success in simple terms, but how do you qualify what we did on the field and off the field, what we saw from Minnesota Aurora last year?
Well, last year was an anomaly, really. I mean, it was a phenomenal year. I think for any club's inaugural season, for a league's inaugural season, it was just phenomenal. I think it went past everybody's expectations for what the possibilities were. The community itself, I think, was the biggest part of what really set everybody's I think it brought a lot of attention to the club. It brought more attention than what I'd even seen around some NWSL teams before. Yeah. So I think that alone really set the standard for what could be possible here in Minnesota and what could be possible with USL. So I think that part was phenomenal to see. I know everybody in the club, everybody in the league has set now, this is the bar, and now we have to keep growing on that. So I'm really curious to see how the second year goes, and I think that'll be really telling.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the USLW League's inaugural return, Aurora was the second place team, very, very close to being the first place team of that championship.
Yeah.
But Nicole Lukic and the staff all back, award-winning staff, with Coach of the Year last year. They also returned the bulk of the team. They do have some players that have moved on. I think 17 players came back. So the core of not only there's some talent back, Dani, but also you'd be positive in thinking the chemistry comes back.
Yeah, I mean, the staff remained the same, and I think their mentality going into the season remained really the same with the goals, the chemistry, the players that they wanted to have consistently. You could see that in bringing them back in. I think Nicole really does a great job of setting the standards for what everybody wants this club to be. So I think you can see that through and through for sure. And I will say, because you mentioned it, what a phenomenal championship game it was last year. I mean, horrible. It was heart-wrenching for Minnesota Aurora fans, but now I think that there's something to work towards again.
Yeah, watching the highlights of it is a little heartbreaking, but there's still such good moments, and the crowd noise is wild. It elevated all year. And I'll say too, of returners, we don't have the age is up this year because the players we've added are older players than previous years, and then also we don't have any players who are still in high school, for example, as their first year on the team. The Raps have all had a year of D1, and then like I said, adding the veterans. So we could even see a lot of the players who were young last year making that jump. Let's dig into new players because we have a player coming up later that we want to talk about, but let's focus on some of her teammates.
Yep.
People with pro experience, which is exciting. Last year, we'd talk about how cool it would be if we had the mix of these young Minnesotans and these mix of college players from around the country to be able to have a few veteran pros in. We have that this year. Real pros. Kennedy Faulkner is someone who played in the A-League this last year, played for Canberra. She scored a goal, played for UCLA as well. Just a huge blue blood program there. And she's played for the Canadian women's national team.
Yep.
So a lot of big name drops there for Kennedy Faulkner. What do you think about a player like that coming into defense?
Well, for those of you who are Equal Times listeners and have heard Haley Kottmeyer on the show before, she was also a Canberra player back in the day. So, all that to say that is a really, really reputable league. Players in the NWSL are constantly trying to get contracts there in Australia. So I think that, for her coming in with that level of experience, that is world-class experience. So I think that really speaks to the level of players that Nicole's looking to bring in this year. She really sets the standard, not to mention the Canadian women's national team. I mean, gold medal winners, you see those players' faces in NWSL and leagues all over the world every day. So, I can't say enough about her experience. She's going to be a really fun player to watch this year.
Yeah, she stood with what we got to see in open training, and I'm sure for the bits you got to see, she's someone who you can just tell by her stature, by the way she approaches like moments in the game. For the flashes I saw, really impressive. Someone who will compete a lot for minutes in the back. Vienna Benke, this is someone with a bit of a different profile, someone who's had years of experience playing in Iceland, which is not the flashiest place to play, but we see a lot of players play there and then make steps or, able to make comparable moves. So what do you think about it? That years of experience?
Yeah. Well, I will say Iceland is a really, really great stepping stone for every player. This is something right out of college, or if you don't have professional experience or you don't maybe have a door that's open for you in like an NWSL training ground or something like that, Iceland has been a great place for players to land for years. It's a very, very well-known league. It is financially sound. So it's in a really, really good spot. And I think also gives players experience to get their professional feet underneath them. So for me to see this on her resume is a really exciting thing to see as well, because I feel like that really also sets the tone for her being somebody with high goals. You can see it in her progression of playing, and so I'm really excited to see how that translates.
And good for the players who haven't played pro yet to say, this is me competing day to day against someone who makes squads. So they have something to compare to. Another player with a unique experience coming up, an exciting thing for Aurora fans, is Paula Ten, who is on the Dominican U20 World Cup qualifying team for CONCACAF. So she'll be later this month going, and the sicko, the big dog, Matt Privratsky, is going to go down and cover that. So stay tuned in, because there's a Minnesotan playing, Maddie Dulling, and then he'll get to catch this Aurora player as well. But someone who just plays at a community college in Iowa, the Lakers, Iowa Lakes Community College, talk about what that could bring back to the team, having a amazing experience like that. Yeah,
well, any national team experience is a great experience for players. I think, especially in somebody who's in the CONCACAF region, even at the U20 level, they are oftentimes playing friendlies against the United States. They're playing against Costa Rica. They're playing against Mexico. They're playing against Canada. So I think that this is when they're with their national teams, they're getting great levels of exposure. They're able to play against teams that are that have different styles and are bringing out a really big challenge for them. So I think that will show a lot in her mentality of, stepping into this kind of an atmosphere, because she's going to be comfortable in playing in higher pressure situations. So for me, the mentality of that is something really exciting to see. Yeah.
You're putting into a huge test when you're playing for a team like the Dominican. You're playing against Mexico, Canada, United States, Costa Rica, everyone else, Jamaica, even. You're being challenged to step up. So she'll be a leader on that, and we'll see how that translates.
I will also say in that a lot of the coaches CONCACAF is really trying to put a lot of time into the coaches of other countries. And so, for me too, that also says she's been coached by some really great coaches, which I think is really exciting.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. No, once again, this year with Nicole Lukic and her staff, diverse route for players coming in.
Yes.
They found another player from Utah State, some other college players that are from places we hadn't seen, and then, a community college player, which, last year we had someone like Songmin Cha from NAIA.
Yeah.
She won't be back. This could be another player like that, a gem.
Super exciting to
watch.
Why
would you doubt Nicole? Why would you doubt it? There's pros and cons to bringing in all this talent, and maybe the con is for the existing players feeling competition and knowing that their minutes might be challenged because I think when we interviewed them at the open training, of course they're excited to have better talent because they want to win, they want to have good teammates, but you could tell they honestly said, there's a bit of anxiety too of like making the mix and also keeping your spot. So maybe like from your experience, talk about that of you want good players, but you don't want them so good that you don't get to play.
Sure. No, I mean, I think that's the challenge of a really, really condensed season.
Yeah.
Because you are bringing in these players from all over the place and you have to rank. As a player, you're always, especially a competitive player at this level, you're always comparing yourself to, where do I fit into this? Am I going to be the starting 11? Am I the backup for this role? Whatever. You're always trying to find out where you fit into that. And so having a totally new group of players in is really hard to do that in such a short amount of time. It's also really hard to prove yourself in such a short amount of time. Like you better be firing on all cylinders right from the get-go. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest challenge for players. In saying that, this season is such a fun time for players. It's such a good time to play without I would say without as many pressures as like the college season gives. So in that way it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of time, good time to be able to just like try new things and, learn a lot in a really short amount of time without so much pressure. Yeah.
Well, and the unique pressure that does come with Aurora, maybe a different thing than having your 4 years of a program and everything that comes with that being a part of a college program. The pressure you get here that maybe you don't is the fan and game pressure.
Yes.
But the thing we've heard from players that went through that and played the first game and then got through into the playoffs where it got even more intense, they talked about how they were able to harness that, and that in the beginning it did kind of get over the top of them a little bit in the first game. But now it's a tool for them.
Sure.
So even where there is pressure, the core of the team returns, where I think they're just excited to embrace that.
For sure. And I'm sure they're kind of like, well, we know what this is like now. And for players that are new, that's going to be a totally new experience. And I will say Minnesota is a bit of a unicorn in this as well, because, not every Heartland Division team is going to get the fans that Minnesota does, and not every college program is going to get the fans that Minnesota does. So in a lot of ways, this might carry more pressure. It's a very unique situation. Yeah.
And I will say shout out to the Oakland Soul. They had some great shots of their first W League game, and it looked like so much fun. They're a team that's looking to go into the Super League for USL.
Yeah.
So talk about, we have, even if say it was the same roster coming back from last year, I bet fans would be equally as ambitious of saying, we maybe expect to win. And I bet Nicole would say she would shoot to win, but we know we maybe do have an added level of talent or certainly experience, but we'll have to see how that works out on the field. But talk about how that impacts expectations and what, like you said, last year, maybe everything did go right. Or maybe it went right for a reason, and they'll make a step up this year.
For sure. I think the pressure of a second year and a second season is always really, really hard because things like the shiny newness of it has worn off a little bit. But now you're like, okay, now what next? So I'm hoping that, I think on the club side, the administrative side, I think everybody that we've been working with has really asked themselves that question, like, what next? It's not necessarily been like, okay, what went, it's been a lot of like what went well, what didn't go well, but really it's been more like, where do we go from here? Which I think is a really great question. I would say Nicole's mindset is probably very similar.
Yeah.
I think that she has looked and said, what worked, what didn't work, and where do we go from here? And you can see that in the new players she brought in, but still remained, like we said, has kept a lot of that consistency in the, in the heart of the team. So yeah, I think that you'll see some changes, but I feel like the good question is like, where do we go from here? And I'm so excited to see
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see how it goes.
Yeah. The standard is high, and
Yes,
we don't think it's probably dropping. Speaking of looking forward, one of the things the team is doing that is a big deal. It is unique. There are only so many people who are full-time paid executives as a sporting organization who are women. There aren't that many.
No,
there's not that many women's organizations to be the executive of. We have the first COO, she is the boss, the big boss of Minnesota Aurora, just to put it all on Jess. But this is the new CEO. Welcome, Jess Poole.
Yes.
Cue sound effect of clapping.
Hello, friends.
Yes, welcome.
So,
Hello.
Jess, talk to us first, just how you've heard about Aurora, how you got connected to eventually end up where we are.
Yeah, so I have great friends in Minnesota. One of my best friends is the athletic director at McAllister. Shout out to Team Brooks. And another great friend works at the University of Minnesota. And so we came to visit, and I will tell you, it was July. And my son and I came to visit for a weekend. We had a blast, and we were kind of, all of us were looking around at each other. Wouldn't it be cool if we all lived here and did life together every single day? We joked about it. I went back to Chicago, and then a couple months later, this random text came into my phone that said, "Hey, this Aurora's looking for a CEO, COO.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would fit." And I was like, do I really want to apply for a job right now? I don't know, and then I said, my friends are there. Like, it would be awesome to do life with them. We talked about this a couple months ago. So I just kind of put my name in the hat, and it all worked out in my favor, fortunately.
Somehow,
Took a little time, but it all worked out in my favor.
Somehow all roads lead to Minnesota, because we found something out just sitting here. Digging in deep, and just like how Dani stumbled her way into the Twin Cities, Dani has a connection with Jess. Dani, do you want to say?
Yes,
Yeah.
My wife is Lauren Young, and we literally just discussed this. Lauren went to the University of Michigan. She played basketball and high jumped there, and you were her PR.
Yes, I was Lauren's PR person, and this is I have a funny story. So we were taking team pictures, and I believe Lauren had just come off of a surgery, and she had a little bit of a bandage on her knee. And she was like, "We've got to hide this. Like, it cannot be that." I was like meticulously like moving people around to make sure that like nobody could tell. And it was like, I remember it being like, okay, this has to happen for us. Like, she cannot show this knee. Yes, that is a moment I remember vividly. But yes, that is
a very small world.
Very
Sports are
small.
Yes, it really is. Well, we are so excited that you're here in Minnesota. Welcome to Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
You've had so many stops. It's kind of the name of the game in college athletics. It is funny to look though. I was on your LinkedIn, and the number. Wait, is it 8 or something?
I think it's probably 8. It's probably 8.
It's a lot, but so really varied though, because you end up doing a lot of different things, very different sports.
Yes.
So, but now, how did it prepare you for this job?
So I think the beauty of college athletics is that you're working with a lot of sports, a lot of different departments. My background, my like bread and butter is communications and PR and media relations. Like that's what I got my start in. That's how I got my foot in the door in college athletics. But I very much have in my like moving up in like different departments have learned about business. I've learned about revenue generation. Like all of those things are a part of my skill set. And really it's a perfect fit for a role like this at Aurora, is that I have to do all of those things. I have to teach people how to do all of those things. So getting that background has been very helpful. I will say that right now, the thing that I'm leaning on the most is kind of the business operations and setting up business processes and policies and procedures and all of those things. And shout out to Chicago State for majorly preparing me to do all of that. And so I think it's just been really cool. And I also think it's awesome to see someone from a very college background be able to transfer skills into an executive setting still within sport. I think that's something that you don't see a lot. So I'm excited to be able to show people that it can be done.
Yeah. Well, we have athletes who aren't in college, but obviously a core focus of it is helping those athletes go to the next step. So you definitely know what they're dealing with, in that journey. And
for sure.
Also a COO that doesn't have an MBA or a business undergrad. I love that. Wow.
Yes.
But obviously
real life experience.
But that's the thing on the job. But in a lot of different places. I noticed also one of the places you worked the previous job, Chicago State, talking about varied roles, I had asked you one question, Jess, which is if titles maybe are getting a little too convoluted in college athletics, how many words when you first started at Chicago State, how many words, not connecting words like for and end, how many words was your title? The first title at Chicago State.
Let me see.
And I'm going to say it. Don't worry. I'm going to read it. It'll take a while. When she got promoted later, it got
9.
simpler. It's under. Jess Poole, this is from the Chicago State. I was watching a YouTube. This is official. Executive Senior Associate Athletic Director for External Operations and Revenue Generation and Senior Woman Administrator.
That's a lot.
That is a ton.
It's a lot of jobs. Should have been paid a couple times maybe for all those roles. But
put that in front now.
Right.
Yeah, so varied experiences for Jess. But it is a different thing to be and also in an organization that doesn't have a huge amount of staff, right? So that's different as well.
Right.
You're in a lot of different tents. So what drew you to this role? Because it is a lot different.
Yeah, so I'm a builder by nature. If you look at my career, I have been at a lot of places where you have to build things.
Mm-hmm.
My last job was at Chicago State. We built a lot there.
Yeah, it's kind of a new D1 program, newish.
Yeah, and certainly has its challenges. So I enjoy building things. I enjoy setting foundation, and I enjoy looking back and being like, man, this is something we built together.
Yeah.
And so I also am the ultimate person that likes to be on a team. So, and I think there's no greater team building exercise than building building a team. And so
I think it's where that term came from. Yeah.
Right. So for me, that's what drew me, is that it's an opportunity to really build something. The foundation is here. It's about putting logistics in place and putting people in place and doing all of those awesome things to really set us up for the next level. And so I think that for me, that's exciting. I get a little bit jazzed about being like, ooh, what processes can we put in place today that are going to serve us when we're in a pro league? And I think that's really, for me, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Sure. You've been here for what, a month now?
I moved into my home on April 6th.
Okay. Yeah. So just
6 weeks.
Just over. Just over.
Yes.
Well, what has been your initial impression of the community, the club, the organization, all of that?
I love living here. It's so I came from Oak Park, Illinois, super diverse area. I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So again, another super diverse area. And this, I have had great experiences here. I think it helps that I have a built-in support system. So moving, it's not like I'm moving and I don't know anybody. So it's been really awesome to be able to, like I said, do life with people that I just enjoy and love every day. I think the club it's in great shape. We need to fine tune some things. We need to scrub some things down and make it pretty and shiny and all of those things. But that's going to be with any organization. And so I have enjoyed getting to know everyone affiliated with Aurora, the founders to our CFO, our legal counsel, y'all. I think it's been really fun getting to meet people. And I love being with the team. I got a chance to bring my son out and my mom, shout out to Granty if you're watching, out to
a crime babysitter.
Right.
Aurora needs grandma badly.
Right.
Granty.
And so it was really fun to be able to bring him out and have him interact with the players. He's very used to being in a setting where players are accessible to him. So it's nice for him to be able to still have that accessibility. He enjoyed every minute of his time at our open practice and came home and crashed hard, full zonk, which was awesome. So shout out to everyone that allowed him to just run around. Mom got a couple hours back in her day.
Nice.
I also have to ask, what does it mean to be one of the few women in this role, especially as a woman of color?
It is an honor. It is a privilege, but it's also a responsibility. I see it as a responsibility to do things the right way and lay a foundation and a path for people to be behind me. It's awesome to be a first. I do not ever want to be a last. And so for me, that is, it's really important to be able to show that you can do it all. I think, it's important to see, I think it's awesome for our team and our staff even to see a single mom doing it at a high level. I think that's just, if I had seen that, back in the beginning, like maybe, maybe things will look different, but like it is a way, I think it's super important to represent and show that we can do it all, and we can do it at a high level, and we can also have fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Like, so I think that's important too, the mixture of it all.
Yeah. Well, and I think I can speak, I'm a Revantilette member. Everybody I think who saw Aurora was hiring somebody was probably optimistic they would make a role that they could be proud of in this way, that it does happen too rarely. And so I know there was just a good reaction from the fans of saying, because it's been a women-led organization. And so, to keep moving on that momentum and have it across the board in every role is cool. What are your goals for the organization this year?
For me, I'm using this season a lot of like getting the lay of the land, really seeing what our processes are, doing a full kind of review of where we are right now. I think that we've already made a few changes on some of the business operations side, but really for me, it's about observing and seeing what works, what doesn't work, what can we do better, what do we need to do differently. But I think also for me, it's keeping the optimal goal in mind, is that we want to be a pro team. Like we are very outspoken about that. And so I think it's super important that we set up our foundation in terms of business and front office organization and those things, so that when it's time to go, we're ready to go. Yeah. We're not building the plane as we're going. We're ready to go. And so that's really important to me, is making sure that we make ourselves attractive to investors, attractive to players, attractive to sponsors. And so that part of it is super important to me, to get that in a really good space, so that we can go out and say, you're not buying a used car. Yeah. You're buying a premium product. And so for me, that's what this year is about.
It's the hottest new thing on the market.
That's right.
It's the hottest new thing on the market.
That's right.
What are
support women's sports?
I mean, it's sadly the attendance cannot go up. The average can, but we can only sell it out so much. Yeah. Maybe we'll get some people on the grass if we need to at the end of this. But so Jess, for you personally, we talk like it's a very cool. We're happy to have you as part of the team. It sounds like you're so focused on what the team can do better and how you can help the team, but also it's a huge opportunity for you. Yeah. And I wonder, just for you, what are your goals with this role and moving forward in the game and the sports world in general? Yeah,
I'm a bloom where you're planted kind of person. Like, I want to do really good work where I am. I want to build something really good here. And if that affords me an opportunity somewhere else in the game or different, I'm open to those opportunities, but I really want to be focused on what we're doing here and what we're building here, because as I used to tell my student athletes all the time, people want to know what you can do where you are. They're not going to hire you because they think that you can do something 10 years down the road. Like, people want to know that, like, okay, this person's done this here. I can bring them in and they can learn and they can grow here. And so it's really important to bloom where you're planted. So that's the philosophy that I take. Like, I really want to build something so amazing and wonderful here. And I want to be hard for people to pick me off. That's what I really want. I want it to be hard for people to come and steal me.
Well, the success should breed that. So we'll be, as a member of Revantilette, I don't know if President Mel is okay with this. I might get, sanctioned or something, but Mel's a regular here at the Black Riders as well. We got to make sure that Jess is an honorary member of Revantilette here. Yes. Section 121, I believe. Yes. And the team also knows how cool the Revantilette group is. They've been putting them in the background of everything just about these days, because it's great to have them and playing the drums. Jess, thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you.
All right.
All right. We have Dani. We'll keep it moving along.
Yes.
I am going to first, before our next guest, which is a player, what's the person among us who can still most kick the ball on the actual field? Dani?
This is true.
Yeah, this is true.
This
She agrees.
is very true.
We're going to read an ad by Pentz Homes. This show is brought to you by Pentz Homes. Whether you're buying or selling, or if you're looking to do some projects in your current home, Nate and Lydia can help you find what you need. Financing for a basement remodel, looking to add a second bath, or even a workspace now that you're working from home, Pentz Homes and their preferred lender, Angie Shearer, and Luminant Financing can help you find the right financing tool for you. Go to pentzhomes.com or on socials at Pentz Homes. Thank you, Pentz Homes.
Yes, Pentz Homes.
Next, we have, I love this run of mascots, by the way. Mine were pretty normal. We have a former Idaho, I don't even have high school. I don't know what happened. My mistake. In terms of college athletics, we have a former Idaho Vandal. We have a Cal State Bakersfield Roadrunner, University of Portland Pilot.
Go Pilots.
And a Portland Thorn as well, a little on the side. But now a Minnesota Aurora player. Welcome, Sophie French.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Did I get a team wrong, Sophie?
Cal State Fullerton, the Titans.
Wow, that's even like a rival too. I did
Right, it is. I know.
My bad. California, I did you dirty. Not enough Minnesotans in the. In fact, I can say, and I might be doing them dirty. I don't think any Minnesotans in the Cal State system, but those were ones I missed last year. If so, Sophie, thank you so much for joining.
Yes, for having me.
Welcome. How did you end up on Minnesota Aurora?
Well, as the soccer women's game is progressing and there's, more and more teams coming out and the USLW league expanding and just becoming what it is, so phenomenal, I started doing my own research and I was like, where do I want to play next? And it led me to Nicole's email and I just shot her an email and was like, hey, what are you guys up to this summer? Like, can I please join? And then we had really good conversations back and forth. And ultimately she offered me a spot and here I am now. And there's no place I would rather be right now. And I've only been here for a week and a half and it's been so amazing.
So you did the initial reach out.
I did.
Good for
Yes.
you. Go get her. Yeah, we like to see that. How has it been here in the Twin Cities so far?
So far, it's been super busy, like back to back practice, lift, meetings,
Tough,
media.
Yeah.
And then I'm also coaching a club team, so that's been really fun. But overall, my experience here has been phenomenal. The girls on the team are so very nice. One of the things you said earlier was that this situation playing with Minnesota for the summer is different than college because some of that pressure of college sports, college soccer is off and we're all here with the same goal and the same mindset. And I think that's really unique. And so everywhere you go, whether it's like in the locker room or at the house or at somebody else's house or whatever, it's just such a great group of girls and we're all here for each other, for soccer. And I don't know, I haven't experienced anything that's quite like it before.
Talk a little bit about what those goals and your mentality around the USL is. I myself played in the W League, the former,
the original OG.
The OG, and no, so the USL W League before the OG League, but
vintage.
Yes, but I kind of back in the day, I treated it way more as like a summer. This is like my summer way
training.
To keep. Yes, exactly. It was my summer training. It was my way to keep my foot on the ball, stay fit. But what does this summer look like to you? What's your mentality around it?
For me, some girls are using it that way, right? Because they're still in college. But for me, who's obviously out of college and still trying to play professionally, I think I want to use it as a stepping stone. And so in addition to having that mindset of we're here to have fun and to play soccer, right? And to have an impact positively in the community. I'm also here to get better as a person and just meet new people, be in a new experience, learn a lot of things like how to do media interviews and things like that. But then also to grow as a soccer player and to get better and to be competitive. And I've been playing a new position, so that's another thing. Learning is one of my favorite things to do. So.
Yes, I love that.
Well,
I love that.
You probably want to get part of it is you want to get good tape and film, right?
Absolutely,
too, because the broadcast looks nice and it does make a difference and it presents you better, right?
Absolutely.
I looked at you already were trying to go pro, right? And you did. I mean, that's one of the clips. I love this because you got it at the end of the game.
I did.
Got it in a minute, right? Or a minute at the end of the game, but you got a touch.
I did.
And so there's a clip.
Just
proof, and of course you need to make that clip.
Of course, you have to include that.
You have to show you made it. You were on the field.
I love
That's
it.
the important part.
Somebody watching that film is going to look up what game is this?
Absolutely.
Thorns and rain.
Absolutely.
Boom.
Huge. That's a huge important piece of your resume.
Definitely.
For sure. Talk about your experience with the Thorns last year.
Oh yeah, that was a unreal experience. It came on pretty quick just because of how the deadline was for national team replacement players. But I just hit the ground running, showed up to practices, jumped right in. met most of the girls, but obviously not the players that were the national team players.
Yeah.
And I mean, similar situation. Everybody was so kind and so nice.
Yeah.
There were no egos, at least that I was aware of, because it was just an environment where we all wanted to get better. And it was just such sophisticated soccer. So that was, I mean, I knew it was going to be that way, but it was just amazing to see, amazing to be there firsthand. And in a place where, you know, they consider themselves Soccer City USA, like to have that community feel around soccer and that support, that was also just phenomenal. And
for sure. Yeah, I understand that. I will say the Portland Thorns, in my experience, have the best fans in the world. And yes, I couldn't agree with you more. The community really embraces that.
Although, I mean, Soccer City USA is now Eagan, Minnesota. I don't know if people know that that's where TCO is. So, which Dani learned about the city of Eagan just last year while she was there.
This is true.
It's fine.
Yeah. And
Eagan,
you know what? Minnesota Aurora is really shining these days. So
it is bringing a lot of people in.
Yes, they are.
But the World Cup players were gone. It's a cool thing because there are so few roster spots in the NWSL.
Yeah.
So because they play through tournaments, you could argue if they should or shouldn't. It happened to be good for you because some more players actually get a chance. There's a Minnesotan who's training, being a training player with an NWSL team right now, and so that could be an opportunity for them in the summer. Who were some of the players? There's still a lot of good players left there when you were playing. Who maybe stood out or who maybe cooked you on the field when you first went to training? Like,
oh my goodness, I feel like it's hard to name just a few. Like everyone there is held to, they hold themselves to such a high standard of competition and just passion. Yeah. And so I think like some of the players that I got close with were Michelle Vasconcelos. So she was also a national team replacement player and then ended up getting signed. Cool. Oh my goodness, she is so quick. So it was really fun to play against her, whether I was on defense or if I was even just a midfielder trying to stop her. Yeah. That was really fun. And then another national team replacement player that I became friends with and still keep in touch with was Cheyenne Shorts. And right now she's playing at San Diego Wave. Cool. But just like to hear her story and how she ended up here, or, you know, where I was also. It was just a really cool experience and a really cool thing to learn. But it was fun to play with her because she's so confident and so strong. Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like it's just, I learned by observing. And so I was like, wow, I want to be like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I think that that's the important part of being a part of a team. That is holding yourself kind of like what we were talking about. When you're exposed to players that are really talented and sometimes better than you start to learn, oh, this is what they're doing. I want to be like that, or this is how they're carrying themselves. This is the decisions they're making. And that starts to form, a little bit in your game as well. So talk about kind of now having the experience of a training and also getting some minutes in a game on that kind of a professional level and how that has been now coming here, which is trying to set up as much of a professional environment as well. What is that kind of comparison like for you?
The situations parallel each other a lot. There's a lot of similarities. I think the program here is just held to such a professional standard that even though we're, a pre-professional or not a professional team, if you came in and no one told you, you would have no idea. Yeah. Just because of the facilities we are allowed to use and just how prepared and ready to go everybody is. The coaches, the trainer, the players, like we come every day ready to work. Nobody's goofing around. And I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but nobody's goofing around like, oh, it's just a summer thing. Like we are all here for competition. And so I think that's how it's similar to the teams I've been on before, is that we all just share that passion. We all love soccer. We're all here to play in the summer. And what better place to do it than somewhere where you have all this backing and this community. So
for sure,
it's very similar.
Speaking of the fun, did you see any of the highlights of celebrations last year? Because I don't know if you've ever been on a team that allows / facilitates. Nicole, I don't think it's just maybe she gives a smirk to them and it's a signal because she seems to love it. But have you seen any of those videos of them? They were in clips. Brenna did work last year.
I've seen a couple. They're hilarious. They're so fun though. But I mean, what a better way to show that this is what we love to do and celebrate it. Like you're allowed to celebrate those things. Like let's get
there's
everyone
6,000
involved.
fans here. Let's have fun. Yes. But does it make you plan? Because if you plan to score, have you already been getting with Mariah Wynn?
Yes, I've been thinking about some funny ones. Been doing some suggestions. But I don't want to give anything away.
I was going to say, are you allowed to tell us about this new position?
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Nicole?
Yeah, Nicole, hello. Well, I guess long story short, I've played almost every single position growing up.
Okay.
Starting at high school level and then growing all the way up to now. And so coming in, I guess I told them I was one position, and then after the first couple of days, they're like, nope, you're over here. So I was like, all right, I'm going to play where you want me to play.
I love that.
Kind of like Jess in that way. It's like, wherever you plant me, I'm going to thrive. I'm going to go like run and kick the ball and do whatever role you expect of me to the best of my ability. So I'll give you that much info. I don't know.
I love that.
We have to
I
ask.
love the mentality.
You don't have to say it. We just have to ask.
Yes. It's our duty.
It's our duty. We're doing our best. Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up too, you had on YouTube is a compilation of headers. It's like 5 minutes, and it's varied. Look, there's goals, there's passes, there's breaking them up. There's just talk about that because you when you're trying to find a pro environment, a team that wants you, you're trying to find what makes you unique. I love that. That's what it can't be goals. Only one person scoring 15 goals a year, so you have to highlight yourself. Talk about making that and how it represents you, how you sell yourself as a player.
Well, of course, like you said, you want to highlight what you're good at, right? And so I've always been a header person, like
scoring. Seem pretty tall. I was gonna say
scoring header goals or winning headers off of like a free kick or something. That's kind of always been my thing, and part of that is just being confident, like ready to win that ball, fearless, and then kind of just like the mentality to hunt. So I think it says just headers, but I think it shows more in that compilation. So that was one of them, but I mean, everyone's a work in progress. So of course I'm always thinking like, what other compilations of my skills can I promote? But you're right. When you're trying to, it's like a soccer resume, but now it's turning into soccer resume on YouTube with all of your clips. And so heading is one of my skills.
I will say that is a real skill. That is not something that comes naturally to everybody, especially somebody who is like a natural hunter. Like you said, it's, you got to be in the right place at the right time and be also fearless in that. So I think that's a great skill.
Yeah, it is. You can join the SportsCenter top 10 club with the other people getting little offensive clips if you score a goal this year. Because I think there were 2 last year. I feel like Morganstone and another one at least. But one thing you mentioned the coaches. I think fans, we're certainly proud being an organization that covers women's soccer in equal time, that it's an all-women coaching staff. And there's not even just in terms of having a woman on coaching staff, there's too few. So have you ever played for an all-female coaching staff, and just has the vibe been different, or is there anything specific that makes a difference with that for you?
I have had women coaches growing up. I've been like, a lot of the players on the team have told me like, oh, I never did. And so I think that's what are you talking about? So to have an all women's coaching staff, like that just really speaks to the goal that we're trying to accomplish. And kind of what pulled me to come here was how we are in a place where we can elevate the women's soccer game, but that's not just it. Like we're not just soccer. Yeah. We're also here to empower women athletes, and bring that part of like female athlete community up, because we need that right now. That's kind of what we need. So I think I think it also speaks to like the passion and how much we really care about that quality and community. And so I think that's phenomenal. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just see, I think women's soccer, women's sports in general are getting viewership, like attendance numbers. They're just going through the roof right now. So also to be able to elevate, the women that are also behind that story, right? Behind the athletes, I think is really exciting too. It's like when one ship rises all. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we all benefit. We saw how much people were into this, how quickly the Aurora sold out the ownership, how quickly they grew to be selling out TCO Stadium, and it just showed that people, it's not like that energy came from nothing. People were waiting and willing for that opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sophie.
Thank you. We're so excited to watch you this season.
And we have to say, it's another Portland. Last year, all we did is bring on people from Portland and Seattle, unapologetic. This is another Portland pilot.
Unapologetic. You're right.
We take what the network gives us.
Yes, that's true. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you guys.
Sophie. I mean, look, and actually, it's nearly all. It skews more thorns. But
I'm not even sorry about it.
We're not sorry about it.
I have been unapologetic around where I came from too, so I'm elevating my roots here. So
love it.
Y'all better like it.
So we'll end up. This was an awesome to meet Sophie, and we'll do our best to get other Aurora players here at the Blackheart. We want to wrap this up by talking a little bit about the USLW Heartland Division. A couple of changes from last year, Dani. A real mix of teams last year where some were very forward facing, like Green Bay Glory, and they got fans. They played at, a minor league baseball stadium and had a nice broadcast.
Yep.
They were the main other team that was operating like Aurora was. And we're seeing another team from Minnesota this year,
Yes.
which is really exciting. So as we lose a couple teams, we lose the teams from down south in Missouri and Kansas. We have a new local rival, which is exciting. Rochester FC. They're the Loons as well. There's more than one. There's only so many mascots. I get it. They have a
Especially here in Minnesota.
it's the state bird, baby. They have a nice crest. They've been very public, and they are signing players, similar profile to Aurora, although I would say not this recent class of kind of pro experienced players. So we're going to go through the list of these teams, starting with Rochester FC and bring in the big dog himself. Equal time founder, Matt Privratsky. Matt, let's talk about Rochester. It's exciting to have a local team. I bet people are making plans to go to this game. I know we are.
Yeah, I think having a local team is going to really change the nature of which fans actually travel for games. The closest games last year was Green Bay, many, many hours away.
Yeah, sicko stuff.
Sicko stuff. Rochester is going to be playing at RCTC, that sort of big football stadium at the community college down there. Every summer league team down in Rochester plays at that stadium, so this thing is getting scheduled out. So obviously it is turf. Otherwise we would be destroying this field with soccer. One fun thing about Rochester, they have 2 local high schoolers on the team. So one from Rochester Mayo, one from Rochester Lord. So if you're a hyper local Minnesota person like Mark and I, seeing details like that are so fun. A handful of folks from sort of familiar Summit League schools. If folks follow Equal Time, we cover those programs all the time. Summit League is loaded with Minnesotans. So folks like Lindsay Birch, who Mark had on, a few weeks back, and then Ana Ricarda Pacheco, who plays down at
Texas Rio Grande Valley, baby. Go wrench it. Yeah.
She's down there. She's been on. I think there's a couple of twins from St. Mary's down in southeastern Minnesota. I think half of LSU Shreveport is on the Rochester roster. There's 5 players from down there. And then one player I think to really watch for Rochester will be Lissa Mizutani. She's from St. Thomas. I've watched her a handful of times this spring. She's looked really good as sort of either a holding mid or an outside back. She's 6 feet tall. She is huge. She's going to be, I think, a really big impact player for them, alongside Birch and a few of those other folks. So they'll be fun.
Right on. And how about Green Bay? Green Bay, like I said, and aside from the fact that they were the most forward and public-facing team last year, they got a bunch of little pockets of Minnesotans too. They snag a couple players from Bemidji State each year, which we cover a lot. They're one of the best D2s up in the upper Midwest. What do you see from Green Bay? They play, by the way, it has the weirdest video board in all of soccer because it's a baseball field and it covers about 30, 40 yards in the middle of the pitch on the sideline, and it distracted the hell out of me.
Yeah, they're great. The other detail you didn't mention, they're the only other team in the division that's a standalone, independent women's soccer team only. They're not in addition, some add-on to an existing men's team. They are a standalone group.
They're also not in addition to an academy system, which makes them different. Yeah. They are made to be like Aurora is in terms of adult and participation. Yeah.
And the 3 women who run Green Bay are just super badass. They just, it's all grind, no money, just all the effort they put in is fantastic. They have a ton of returning players, and they were, I think, one of their strongest suits last year was just being very well coached. They came in very prepared, earned a draw against Aurora in Aurora's first ever home game. So look for them they should be fairly disciplined. It is, noteworthy that they will have a change, I believe, at keeper. And so that's something to watch because their keeper, Alyssa Stumba, last year from BSU was a real standout. So we'll see how their new keeper does there. They do return Skylar Prentice, who is their top scorer. And then, like I said, a lot of other returners. So they're a really fun team to cheer for just because they are an independent women's team. They are run by 3 women who are just the absolute best. And that's a pretty good road trip, like Mark said. Probably the biggest video board I've ever seen at a stadium like that. It's just absolutely nuts.
Well, and another newcomer to the league is going to be Bavarians United. So they're one of the oldest clubs, I think, like in the U.S. So,
For sure.
yeah, I mean, so talk to us a little bit about them. What do they have going on?
They are going to be pure mystery box for fans. I don't think they've had a single player announcement. And so we have no idea who's going to be on that squad. Yeah. Although I will say I did check with some sources. They do have players. Players have been being registered. They just are not been being announced. But their stadium is right by that brew hall. Like Dani said, they're a historic club, super well known in the Milwaukee area. So that's going to be a really fun road trip to cover, and I'll be there on the ground to check that out. Maybe I'll drink beer at the brewery. Who's to say?
Twist my arm.
So generous of you.
But who knows? And that the fun thing, that Bavarians trip for the team is one of their only sort of longer road trips. They do Racine midweek and then Bavarians on the weekend. So that's one of those double trips for the team too.
Okay.
That's when the players become friends, Dani. That's what we heard. That's what they need. They had the trip down to Kansas, and look, if you would make the trip down there, you would have spent time just becoming friends with the teammates too. It was out in the field. It was Big Green out there, and it was exactly like Big Green. Yeah.
No bonding time like field trip times. There really isn't.
Yeah.
Talk to us about RKC Third Coast, which, by the way, I love the name. Third Coast.
It's like a streetwear brand.
It makes them feel so cool. I'm just saying it.
Yeah, it's true. They did a fan contest as well, correct? To get that name.
Yeah, I think so.
They announced like Aurora did. And then they had a fan contest. So yeah, there's some rad streetwear people there.
Racine should be a fun trip too. They're in a newer venue. It's called Pritchard Park in Racine. It says it seats 2,000 fans. It has concessions, turf field. They pull from a lot of local folks. So they have, multiple folks from UW Parkside, a nearby D2. Many players from the Milwaukee School of Engineering or
obviously
MSOE.
We all follow them.
And so they're like a strong D3 that's local. They have multiple folks from Winona State, multiple folks from Bryant and Stratton, a JUCO. So props to them.
Jess is maybe we need Jess Poole to help us with some of these.
We got they also have a BSU player, Concordia player, so some players that maybe you've seen at equal time.
A lot of college players, it sounds like. Though.
Yeah, and they have a handful of D1s too. One to watch for is Haley Johnson, who played at UW Milwaukee, so some overlap with some Aurora folks. Yeah. Crazy productive college player, 80 plus games played, 27 goals, 20 assists.
Yeah.
So if you're going to see sort of a top performing offensive threat, I think you probably expect it from Haley Johnson.
Yeah, UW Milwaukee, one of the most present teams actually in the conference. Just that one, I mean, like we have some connections there now, and Nicole being connected. Green Bay has a couple people from UW. Yeah, so go Panthers. A pretty decent squad, honestly. Horizon League, I think. So, yeah. And then two of the teams are in Chicago. These were teams more, as we discussed, their teams sit in the top youth systems. And so we don't see a lot of public announcements or anything from them. What do we know about the Chicago squads this year, Matt?
Yeah, they both have a lot of commitments with a lot of, if you go through their Instagram, they probably have sort of the shiniest list of player announcements just because almost all the players for both of those squads are coming with sort of a D1 name attached or even a Power 5 name attached. We could start with the Dutch Lions. They're playing at, everyone just hold for applause and laughter. They're playing at Aurora University in Aurora, Illinois. So what a fun live tweet that will be.
Shout out to Wayne's World.
So that is way out in the burbs. Last year, I covered the away trips to Chicago and thought we were, out in the exurbs. This is even farther.
It'd be like Blaine, probably.
Elk River.
Even more.
Elk River.
It is
Big Lake.
Aurora is 45 minutes farther outside of Chicago than O'Hare. So you fly into O'Hare and go 45 minutes out. So it's actually probably similar to like Rochester, frankly, for distance. But a lot of D1 players on the announcements, but a lot for the Dutch Lions are college commits. So folks who are going to those schools, but are actually exiting high school.
They're academy players like that.
Yeah, there are a few big time vets. Maya Lambert, who's played 90 games for Purdue. Lindsay Sands, who played 75 games for St. Louis, which has been a top program. And then again, tons of commits that are going to places like Notre Dame, Iowa, Texas. So I think there's probably a lot of probably a lot of pedigree from these players, but I think we're still not really sure maybe how they would blend, and then also how prepared they would be to go up against the big dogs like Sophie who have some pro experience and lots of college experience.
Those are the teams, and a few of those as well, where because they have the academy players working in, they have big rosters and they rotate a lot. Where like when you travel, you never knew what you would get when they travel to Aurora. Those would be some of the days where they roll up in 2 big vans versus Aurora sends the 23 players, and that's where we saw some margins last year.
That's also where you're going to start to see towards the end of the season when players have to report to college that their roster is going to shift a lot. So those players aren't going to be available.
Well, in City is one of those with a huge roster. I think just the announced players, there's 35, so a big crew. They are actually playing at Lions for Hope Complex, which is much more centrally located than any of the places we've seen. The closest thing, the only more centrally located venue we've seen in summer soccer down there would be like when teams used to play at DePaul. So this is just west of sort of the West Loop, so pretty central, pretty urban, which should be fun to go check out. We're not sure on stream and game day stuff, but still, again, a lot of D1s announced. Most of those are Power 5, but again, a lot of commits who haven't necessarily played Big Ten games yet, or D1 games yet. There are some Big Ten players coming in with some experience. Burchell, a midfielder from Illinois, Miller, Doucette, and Phillips from Northwestern, Burrell from Michigan, Roy for Purdue. And then they have a couple of players who have some pro chops. So I think it's Jasmine Castanon played pro in Greece, so that's fun. It'll be fun to see if she brings some Wiley veteran vibes. And then Whittinghill is a player that's played for them in the summer league a while. So I think the Chicago team should have pretty good talent. We'll just see how that blends together.
Yeah. It's cool to have closer road trips too. I mean, those Wisconsin trips, it'll be fun for players.
Absolutely. And I will say Chicago City itself is one of the biggest youth clubs in Chicago. I mean, if not the biggest. So I think every talented player is probably wanting to play there, especially if you're coming back for something and you have, family in Chicago, that's where you're going to want to be. So it'll be exciting to see how all of these teams look different from last year. I think this league this year is going to be so much fun to watch. I almost feel like it's going to be a whole different story.
It'll be fun to have already seeing the West Coast teams starts, like Oakland Soul. California Storm is a really big summer league team who's been like a historic WPSL power. There's going to be a lot of attention in the league on the coast that we didn't have because there were no West Coast teams, and there's a lot of talent out there. So it's all good because it's going to raise the boat, raise the whatever. You get it. We know. It's been an hour. You get it. You
Cheers
get it.
to
Thank
that.
you to the
You need
big
a cup of
dog.
coffee.
Thank you to the big dog. Just water. Thank you to the big dog, Matt, for breaking it down. Matt will be at games because he's a madman. And I will say to everybody, all of this happens with your support. Being a Patreon pays for us to travel to games like this. And it really does help. So to all the parents and family support, it's awesome. You can do it for as low as a couple dollars a month, and you're going to see us multiple times a week, multiple games. You're going to wonder how we have the time to do this. I don't make plans. I work 3.5 days a week. So stay in touch with us. We're going to do our best to be putting clips on YouTube. If Twitter goes under this summer, the archive's all on YouTube. I'm just saying, everything is there.
No faith in it.
But also when you reach out to, also in terms of catching up for this season, you can see the videos we took on Instagram. You go to our Instagram page, see player interviews, coach interviews. You can see the game on YouTube. You can watch the pre-games of Dani and I last year. You can watch the first one where, I hadn't really figured it out as much yet. It's a lot of fun.
And then this year we're leveling up a little bit here.
Look at this camera. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We're really excited for all this coverage. There's a game I should know. It's next Wednesday. It's the 24th. We'll post more about it. I should have had that written down, but it's Rochester, baby. That's the first we put out on Twitter. It's still open. We don't decide this, but we did want to put it out that is right for being named in terms of a derby. We'll see if rivalries have to organically develop.
Yes, they do. I don't know. I'll be curious to see. We're going to let them decide that.
Loons too.
Yeah.
Also Loons. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.